Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Stephen.
I was shocked to read your column today, shocked. You described the tax debate as a bugger's muddle. And this is a phrase I've never heard before. It sent me to my search engine, and I hear it has a long and venerable history. It's variously defined as meaning a mess, confusion caused by incompetence, a venture doomed from the beginning, and a complete cock-up. So can you explain why you think this, whilst noting that some of our viewers may be sensitive or eating at the moment?
Well, let me say, let's take the definition of a mess. I think that the tax debate it has been promoted by the Turnbull government as a conversation with the community. It's made a virtue of that, of saying we won't rush, we want all the options to be teased out, everyone to have their say. Now, this is always a good idea at the start of such a process, but as time goes on, people say, sick of this conversation, let's have decisions. And I think that we've reached that stage in terms of the commentators and the interest groups and the community, but the trouble is that the government itself hasn't finished its work. So it's caught in this situation of people being impatient and yet it can't yet deliver.
And in relation to Scott Morrison, the Treasurer's National Press Club address, you note that he's been attacked by the media for going over time and not saying anything of substance. And in my experience, this is not uncommon at the National Press Club. So why the ferocity of the attack, do you think?
I think this says a lot about the speeded up news cycle of these days, and it also goes back to the point of people becoming impatient. So while it was never really expected in recent days that Scott Morrison would announce anything at the National Press Club, nevertheless when he didn't and went on radio and television the next morning, everyone is ready to attack. One interesting point is that I think when he accepted this engagement or arranged this engagement some weeks ago, he would have thought he would be at the stage of promoting his preferred option, which of course was the big bang tax policy with an increase in the GST and large income tax cuts. Now that was swept off the table by his leader a little while ago, and so he was left really having to rein in expectations and with nothing specific to announce.
And Labour and Chris Bowen are looking coherent at the moment in relation to tax policy, with more possibly yet to come. Is that how you see it?
I think that they are doing well at the moment. Their negative gearing policy, which was put out last weekend, has been a very solid policy, a very controversial one, and of course there are some brickbats being thrown, but nevertheless they seem to have something to say, and that is important. But I would stress that we are in this messy stage of the debate, so that when the government actually announces a policy, it'll in a way sweep away the muddle and will change the debate, and therefore Labor will be under quite a lot of pressure, of course, because we will be into a discussion of real detail on both sides.
And then finally, Michelle, Barnaby Joyce was sworn in as Deputy Prime Minister this week. This would be unremarkable except for the fact that the position doesn't actually exist. Can anyone be sworn in at Government House? Because I'll be looking for a new title and it's a great venue.
Well, apparently, because no one can remember when this last happened. The Nationals think it was probably Jack McEwen, their fabled leader, who was sworn in as Deputy Prime Minister, but mostly it's, of course, ministers are sworn into ministries. And because Barnaby Joyce wasn't changing his ministry, he didn't need to be re-sworn into anything.
But he wanted to be sworn in as something, did he?
Indeed, and apparently this suggestion, however, came from Malcolm Turnbull. Barnaby Joyce was pretty pleased that he had a formal role in the ceremony. Of course, he'd have turned up anyway as the new leader and watching his team. But much of the week, Malcolm Turnbull and Barnaby Joyce were out together campaigning in North Queensland. And I think it's interesting that Malcolm Turnbull undertook that trip with Barnaby Joyce, because this alliance is a really important one and they need to get on well, and so far they seem to be getting on very well.
Well, it's a topsy-turvy world. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Stephen.